good people. I've seen a lot of you on my inbox trying to ask me my views and my opinion regarding the new compensation framework that was proposed by President Ruto and was established on the 8th of August 2025 with the aim of compensating both the civilians and the police who are injured and murdered during the 2025-2024 political unrest and economic protests. This is my view. The framework that was done and proposed through a presidential proclamation to me is irregular, unconstitutional, and should be disbanded. Not because we are not human enough to feel for the families that require to be compensated, but we think to close the chapter once and for all, we need to be fair to everybody. We cannot rush into a process where people who are murdered, maimed, and the duty bearers have not taken responsibility. Before we ask how much we are compensating you and for what? For business losses, for our losses, for pain, for medical bills, and many other aspects of compensation, we need to ask ourselves, why did we have to kill, maim, and damage properties? Who did that and who ordered for that? Before we unravel that whole unclear situation and circumstances, it becomes very difficult to close that chapter. The framework is comprised of people who, in my view, are the perpetrators of the same violence. So before we compensate, we need to separate the perpetrators and the victims. It can never be a framework of justice and accountability when the key players of the perpetrators of the extreme violence are still part and parcel of the framework. This framework that was established by the president contravenes the Kenyan Constitution, Article 47 and Article 50 of the Kenyan Constitution. This is the aspect of the Constitution that dictates the fair administration of justice and impartial hearing of victims before independent tribunals. It contravenes the Victim Protection Act. Remember, we have an act that has a fund called Trust Fund and a board that is supposed to manage matters of reparation and payment of compensations. We have not heard how that board is going to be incorporated in the framework. It also contravenes the international human rights standards that are prescribed in the mutual legal agreement between Kenya and other international communities. To me, this framework coming from the president is an act of extreme presidential overreach to include Minister of Interior, Ministry of Interior, AG, and Treasury in this framework. I sat and wondered, how can you go to accuse the police under the Ministry of Interior that they exerted excess pressure and force, maimed and killed, yet the Ministry of Interior is part of this framework? How? So how will victims get justice? I wonder. And so, I don't know how you can propose to compensate people the president in public claimed to be terrorists and coup plotters. How do you then face the same terrorists? And when we talk about compensation, are we going then to incorporate all terrorists who have already been taken to court and have been determined that they are terrorists? So, are we going to compensate all terrorists? We hear that there were people who were actually taken to court and sentenced because of plotting a coup in 1982. So when we call demonstrators and rioters coup plotters, so are we going to compensate even those that plotted a coup in 1982? I'm just wondering. So for me, this has no goodwill. I think to me, it's an act of whitewash and cover-up. And that's my opinion. Really, if the president meant it, he would have first of all come out public and offered unconditional apologies to the victims, those who lost their loved ones, those who are maimed, those still in hospitals, and also extend his act of goodwill by unconditionally releasing the 90 youths who are political prisoners right now, and withdrawing cases against human rights defenders that are already actively in court. If the president does some of these three items that I've mentioned, he will show the world and show Kenya that he has political goodwill and he would want to reconcile this country. But for now, a compensation framework proclaimed by the president, purportedly to compensate, it's a political gimmick.